Greetings from Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. I'm Victor Fursov, and this is my stream about entomology, the science about insects. And this stream is devoted to special subject, insect collectors and insect collections. Yes, what means collections? What means collectors? These are difficult questions if you are just ordinary person. If you are biologist, if you are entomologist, if you are zoologist, it's very simple question because you do know who is insect collector, who is scientist, and who is amateur collector. But it is difficult question for collectors to recognize themselves who they are, because this is also controversial question. Controversial because some people are very special collectors. That's why this stream is devoted to this very difficult question about insects, about arthropods, about invertebrates, and how to collect them, how to save them, how to maintain collections. These are special collections of invertebrates as a voucher specimens for scientific study. And what means scientific study? You know what means scientific and amateurs collections. We should recognize that collections can be different, absolutely different. Collections can be private, collection can be scientific, a collection can be for exhibition, for educational purpose, just for enjoying themselves, just for collection. And collection can be for investments of money, because some collections can have some value. So join us on this stream, and if you have some questions, if you have some difficult questions and difficult write it in and then watch it on telephone and on screen in computer. On telephone, because it's easy to observe all YouTuber streams, the internet, your smartphone, even just in metro, even underground, even in shelter, because in Ukraine now this is a wartime. Fortunately, we didn't have air alarm in the nearest hours, but it was today and it was yesterday, and Ukraine in a difficult situation of a war against bloody neighbors. But today, still, don't be crazy about politics, don't be crazy about native environment around our Ukraine. We will be talking about natural environment, about nature, about insects, about entomology, about invertebrates, about butterflies, beetles, wasps, bees, and parasitoids. Today I show you just this on the background, some butterflies from a Red Book of Ukraine, which are under protection by the law, and also some rare species of different orders of insects. On the poster behind of me, some invertebrates from Red Book. So collection can be different, especially if it's concerning some rare species. You must be careful if you do not collect or you collect some rare species. And for the purpose of collection can be different. So in the previous time, in communist, socialist time, the most important intention was to have governmental collection, which is intended for scientific purpose. But now this is a capitalism. That's why some people do intend to have some kind of a commercial collections, kind of a private collections, because now you should have some kind of a private property. You may have a private property. You may have some property like flat, house, and also maybe private collections. So this is a difficult question from ethical point of view, not from commercial point of view, because this is collection of different living organisms which are becoming dead organisms which are stored in collection for special purpose. As professional entomologist, I am working at the Institute of Zoology of National Academy of Sciences in Ukraine, named after a great evolutionist Ivan Ivanovich Schmalhausen, Institute of Zoology. So we're familiar about collections in our institute, different invertebrates, vertebrates, and different insects. We are studying collections for scientific purpose. What means scientific purpose? And what means study collection for scientific purpose? It means if you have collection which can be stored in boxes, in something like that. Scientific purpose is not only observational purpose, to observe collection and enjoy how beautiful these scarab beetles, how beautiful these are rhinoceros beetles, how beautiful this mole cricket. No, these different scarab beetles, June beetles, or this May beetles. Yes, not only observational purpose. This is a scientific purpose. For scientists, the purpose is to study insects. What means study insects? Insects can be studied from different angles. First of all, they should be collected. Collected with different traps and different equipment. The most common equipment for naturalists from 16th century, from Darwin, 17th century. This is entomological net, or you should say butterfly net. Butterfly net is used to collect butterflies, beetles, crickets, grasshoppers, different small bees, wasps, different bumblebees, parasitoids, because they're coming. Because entomologists are using special technique which is named sweeping by butterfly net or sweeping net. When you're just making these movements, and insects are coming inside the net, and then just entomologists turning head inside the butterfly net, sometimes using special equipment called putter. I have it somewhere, exhauster, to catch small insects inside butterfly net, or to catch some big insects with hand, catching them just here. This is very important to be quick, very fast, and attentive, and don't crush your insect after collecting with your hands, with your fingers, because some insects are very fragile, very tiny. So you need to use butterfly net, or in some cases you can use even some water net, aquarium for different purposes, to catch some individually or just to catch insects from special traps. Special traps like yellow pen traps, Malay traps, different ones to store insects in alcohol, in different vials. So entomological net is obviously just a very important equipment, but not only sweeping net, not butterfly net. Many different entomological methods are used to catch insects for scientific study, or maybe for amateurs, because there are a lot of amateurs, which are named collectors. Some people are making living collecting insects. So they are just professional collectors. Scientists were professional observers, were just professional researchers, scientists. They're studying under the microscope, in a field with special equipment, with video camera, with photo camera, with recorder, taking photos of morphology, taking photos of behavior of different insects of different orders, taking some samples for scientific study in boxes, keeping them in boxes, and creating some kind of scientific collections, taking some samples as a voucher collections, like different wasps, different bees, some hornets like that, different races of bees, for instance, putting them inside, or making sometimes this kind of a observational collection just for visitors. This is part of my observational collection with hornets. Hornets just to show for students and to explain them about social wasps like this family Vespidae, or paper wasps. So these are European hornet, Vespa crabro, family Vespidae, and this is part of the nest, part of this with this very funny foundation with funny paper cells, which are extracted from natural environment, from natural nest. So for observation, I need to show them some samples, some vouchers to explain behavior, to explain morphology, not using only photo on under the microscope or photo from internet, which you use now very easily. So such a kind of a voucher collection is quite important. These are European hornet, for instance. As I said, scientists should study insects' different orders under different angles: morphology, physiology, behavior, anatomy, different trophical relations between insects, or some groups of insects and another group of insects, some like a host, some of parasitoids, or some predators, some were victims, prey. So trophical relation between plants, some group of insects, phytophagous insects, were just feeding on plants, so relation between phytophagous insects and their host plants, and some predators, between predaceous insects and their prey, between parasitoids, some kind of insects which are parasitizing some other insects which are also their hosts. So very difficult connections between insects, and of course connection between insects and animals, different kind of vertebrate and invertebrate animals, and human beings as well. So for that, this is a chapter that's called Urban Entomology. This is a part of study insects which are influencing human beings in a city, or medical and veterinary entomology, which is studying influence of different groups of parasitic insects, some like mosquitoes and others, on human beings, and their influence for transmission of different diseases from one group of animals to another animals, and to some groups of hosts as human beings, between human beings, like transmission of different diseases like malaria and fever and so on. But what's about collections? For studying different insects under the microscope, scientists need to take some voucher collections, voucher specimens from the nature. For that, they are collecting different groups of insects, putting them inside boxes, making them in alcohol collection in samples, and making some samples also not only dry, but also in alcohol for modern molecular genetical study as well. Here, these are samples with different variations of honeybees, Apis mellifera, some cells, combs, some queen cells as well, some queens, some drones, some workers, and also some wild bees, not domestic bees like honeybees, but also wild of different families, which looks like a honeybees, but completely different by belonging to different families, and some wasps as their natural prey, natural enemies as well. So this part of collection is also for educational purpose and for expositional purpose. After studying insects under the microscope, after comparison of different insects in different museums, scientists are writing their articles, writing their books, writing their monographies, like this book. This book is more, of course, educational, not so scientific, because here not too much information from labels about distribution, because this is atlas, which is intended more for educational purpose, to show the biodiversity of insects, butterflies of world. Very nice book with different photographs of different families of butterflies. with indication of their distribution, with indication of, you can recognize their different morphology, and you can recognize the biodiversity of butterflies. Someone, maybe even the large group of scientists, took the time to take different photos in the museums, not only one museum, in different museums, to make this collection of photos of these butterflies, which are taken from the insects in scientific collections in different scientific museums. You see, many different insects, many different butterflies, they are stored in museum collection for decades, even for hundreds of years, because they are voucher specimens which are representing different groups from different geographical areas, different families, which are presented in different areas like South America, in Africa, in Australia, in North America, in Europe, in Asia, and also with description later with some data about these specimens which are indicated here on this atlas. So this is an example of scientific book about butterflies. I have a note between books. I can show you. Collection can be not so huge as a book. Collection can be smaller for educational purpose. I got it from my friend Oleg, who is making some collections of beetles, butterflies from dead individuals. He did this collection of this stag beetle, and he bred some of these butterflies in his room at home for purpose of studying the biology and for purpose of conservation. But we will be talking about it later. So this is another example of book which is about distribution of insects in particular area. This book is named Butterflies of Afghanistan. This is the daytime butterflies of Afghanistan. Several people or authors of this book from Ukraine, Butterflies of Afghanistan. People spent a difficult time searching for butterflies in Afghanistan, and also taking some photos of natural environment in Afghanistan, different mountains, different hills, slopes, plants. Authors described the distribution and records of several species as new for the fauna of Afghanistan. And this is natural environment in Afghanistan, different slopes, which was quite difficult and practically impossible to come at the present time. It was published nearly 20 years ago. And of course here the atlas of different groups like Lycaenidae, butterflies. But not all these butterflies have been collected by authors of a book. The book of Butterflies of Afghanistan. Not only by authors. Majority of butterflies which are indicated on these nice pages were photographed in museums, in European museums, not in American museums. American museums, they have also just a great collection of daytime and nocturnal butterflies, but they are difficult for access because far away. In Europe, it's possible to visit some scientific private museums, to investigate these museums, to take photographs and to make comparison of different butterflies, different species. And here just this in white and black, here given just the distribution of different species with indication of points on the map with data of labels and data of labels from collections, because not everybody can visit collection somewhere in Berlin, in Dresden, Tübingen, in France, in London, Natural History Museum in London, Museum of Natural History in Paris. But authors have done this difficult job to study museum specimens in museums, to describe labels, to describe distribution, to describe morphological features, and after that to make some like this nice plates, photographs in the nature. Here this photographs in the natural environment, but the natural environment in Afghanistan probably was quite difficult to take photos because these are mountains and not very safe place. It was 20 years ago, and it is especially now. But nevertheless, just hundreds of specimens of butterflies from Afghanistan are stored in collections in museums in Europe, in Asia, because some Asian entomologists have visited Afghanistan as well for many years. They described many scientific papers. And so this is also a study which has very great importance for the science and for the study of biodiversity of daily butterflies of Afghanistan, of this very unique territory, which is quite difficult for access. So some of collections are scientific collections in organizations, in museums, but some of these insects are deposited, especially in Germany, in private collections. So what means private collections? Hello for people who are joining us. I can see them on telephone. On computer, this is two different lines. So some people are joining us. About bees. Okay, about bees I can show you later. Bees as well. Private collections are private property collection. If somebody who is not professional entomologist, this person can collect material in the nature and keep it as a private property. Yes, this is good or not? Actually, by the way, scientists, they have a special scientific code of collection. Code of collection. I found this is a special code of collection and code of collecting, which I found, which is named, I can read it carefully, which is I found in the literature. You can read it carefully from the screen. The Code to Conduct for Collecting Insects and Other Invertebrates, which was published by the Joint Committee for Conservation of British Invertebrates. Because field entomologists in the United Kingdom have long supported the Code for Collecting. It was published before 1987 by Joint Committee for Conservation of British Insects. Which points it's included? For instance, about collecting in general point. If you're collecting insects and some other invertebrates, you must be careful from ethical point of view and from scientific point of view. For instance, collecting in general, no more specimens than are strictly required for the scientific specific purpose should be captured or killed. Remember that even an apparently common species may be locally vulnerable. Please, it means do not over-collect insects and other invertebrates in specific area. Second, individuals of readily identified species, particularly butterflies, should not be killed nor removed from the wild unless required as voucher specimens or for scientific or educational study. If they are not needed for such purpose, they should be examined while alive and then released near the place of capture. Third, if the accumulation of scientific data is not a specific aim, consideration should be given to photography as an alternative to collecting, especially for Macrolepidoptera. So it means if you are not doing scientific collection, please do not over-collect. You can change it from collection to photography and deposit your photos on social media, in iNaturalist or other web pages. Fourth point, species that do not occur in abundance should not be taken year after year from the same locality. So it's important to not over-collect the same species of even invertebrates, even with simple butterflies. Fifth, specimens for exchange or disposal to other entomologists should be taken sparingly and preferably not at all. Sixth, invertebrates should not be collected from the wild for sale or other commercial purpose, including the manufacture of jewelry or for purely ornamental display. Just ornamental, just for fun. Please do not collect it if you just for fun. Number 7. If specimens are sold for captive bred stock from captive bred stock or from old collections, they should be accompanied by precise data, including details of provenance. Data must be indicated with when, why, and whom these specimens were collected, because many species are rare species and then can be in the old time collected as now belonging to protected species by different laws. Number 8, when obtaining early stages for collecting leaf mines, galls, seed heads, leaves, never take all that can be found. Leave as many as possible of early stages of insects to allow the population to survive. Do not over-collect everything. Do not collect all early stages of insects, because even simple collector can over-collect it. We can discuss it later after I read it. Number 9, do as little damage to the habitat as possible. Do not destroy natural habitat at all. Yes, this is a special guidelines. Number 10, adequate records should be must be taken. Adequate scientific records about data, place, and collector should be indicated on the label. Number 11, collections should be properly housed to prevent deterioration or damage by pests. Number 12, future value of every collection should be safeguarded. The owners should provide for appointment for a scientific executor who can offer the collection to a learned society or museum. Say it in more simple ways, but it's important if this is a kind of a private collection, you should cooperate with some kind of a scientific entomological society or entomological group in your local area, or scientific and or private museum for appropriate storage of this collection. Collection about rare, local, and endangered species. Special points. It's illegal to collect certain listed invertebrate species or forms except under the license from the relevant authority. Other taxa listed as being of conservation concern should not be collected except with the utmost restraint. just a pair of specimens of any such taxon should be considered sufficient for personal collection. Species in greatest danger should not be collected at all for this purpose. Number 2. By taking of larger annually repeated samples may however be justified by bona fide scientific study, it can be reasonably expected to have no damaging effect on the population. Number 2. The collection of rare or local species from sites where they are already known to occur does not generally provide useful data. It should be avoided except for the purpose of survey or other scientific study. If all the species already known in this area, do not collect every year the same species in the same place, because occasionally you can over-collect it, too many individuals, or maybe just the latest one. Number 3. Newly discovered localities for rare species should be reported to appropriate conservational organization, record centers and organizers of recording schemas. About traps and trapping. Number 1. The catch in a trap should be released after being examined, except for any specimens that must be killed for voucher purposes or for an ecological or scientific study. The release should be made in the same locality, but away from the immediate trap site. The catch should be preferably be kept in a cool, shady conditions and then released at the dusk. If it is not possible, it should be released in lawn grass or other cover, not on lawns or other exposed surfaces, because some invertebrates can be immediately killed, died, or eaten by some other animals. Anesthetics are harmful and should not be used, preferably not be used. Number 2, these points. Leaf trapping, for instance, in traps filled with X-ray material is always be preferable to the killing of a catch. Number 3. Unwanted invertebrates should not be fed to fish, birds, or other animals. Just for fun. Please, don't do it. Number 4. If a trap used for scientific purpose is found to be catching rare or local species unnecessarily, should be recited. Please put your trap in another site if you're just collecting a rare species. Number 5. Traps and lights should be sited with care so as not to annoy and confuse and just another people or to waste police time. Please put traps and light traps in appropriate places. And of course, collectors should receive permissions, can provide some license condition. Always seek permissions from landowner or occupier before collecting on private land. You need to obtain appropriate permits to access or for collecting on any site controlled by conservational body, such as county, wildlife trust, local authority, the National Conservation Agency, some kind of a forest enterprise, or national trust. Collecting on a site of special scientific interest requires permission both from owner and from a local office of appropriate National Conservation Agency. Always comply with any conditions laid down by the granting of access and permission to collect. And please always, number 3, always report your findings to the person who gave you permission, at least after commenting orally on ecological requirements of a few species of interest. Finding from natural reserve or other important site should be sent to the appropriate authority in the form of a list report of a species recorded, annotated with habitat data for conservational purposes. And of course, important part about protecting the environment. You should protect habitats and remember the interest of other naturalists. You should avoid harm to nesting invertebrates and vertebrates as well, to the vegetation, in particular rare or fragile plants. When beaten by butterfly nets or sweeping net, trees or shrubs for invertebrates, do not trash leaves or twigs so as to cause some important damage, or sharp jarring of branches is normally sufficient and more effective. Some searching for larvae rather than indiscriminate beating should be considered as more environmentally friendly and given more insights into the life styles of a species concerned. When some entomologists like coleopterists and others work with dead wood or bark, we should leave a substantial proportion untouched inside the locality, the same place. Where practicable, detached bark and worked material should be replaced. We are searching for insects under the stones and logs. Overturned stones and logs should be gently replaced in the original positions, unless very deeply embedded. Damage to aquatic habitat from over vigorous use of water net or kick sampling should be avoided. Waterweed and mosses should have been worked for invertebrates should be replaced, together with unwanted animals. Plant material that has been left by site managers in a litter heaps should be replaced or not scattered just about. Do not throw away plants which you have studied for insects. Replace it in the same place. Such trap as a sugar should never be applied to tree trunks or other surfaces where it could harm lichens, lichens, or other epiphytes, or where it should be unsightly. Wine ropes should be used in preference to sugar patches. Litter from vertebrate nests and roots should be collected only in compliance with the laws applying to the species concerned. Collectors should follow the country code and comply with all bylaws that apply to the site concerned. So the most important you need to follow to the law, which is in this or that country. So, taking into the account of this very important, even supported by scientific organizations in some countries, this code of collectors from Britain, you should keep in consideration that there are some scientific collectors and some naturalists or entomologists who are amateur collectors. We're coming back to the question, who are collectors and why people collecting insects? Some people collecting for scientific purpose, some people collecting for educational purpose, for monitoring purpose, some for just exposition, just for observational purpose, not for scientific purpose. Maybe some people collecting for investing money because people are selling insects. More widely distributed official way of sale insects on different exhibitions. If insects are bred under the natural conditions or just in laboratories. Natural conditions, these are conditions of kind of a closed part of parks, somewhere like in Peru, in Bolivia, in Papua New Guinea, where just there is kind of a gardening, green gardening, like a greenhouses with planted different natural plants, natural hosts of different insects, like in Papua New Guinea and Indonesia, some birdwings, butterflies were just bred in greenhouses on natural plants, and then just collected as a pupa, and just some adults are bred from pupa. So some birdwings are collected not in natural environment, not in mountains somewhere, not in just difficult accessible areas inside the continent, subcontinent, inside small islands, inside big islands, but in very difficult areas, but in greenhouses. So in these cases, the price of these bred insects are less, and of course they're more accessible, and they're not so under the danger of disappearance, because they're bred in artificial condition, artificially bred. So this is a great advantage. But in many cases, some sailors do not follow the idea of insects in greenhouses, breeding them, because this is a difficult idea. Like as I said, some collectors are breeding for nature conservation purpose, for example. I know, for instance, my friend in Chernigov region, who is Oleg, he is breeding butterflies at home in the laboratory for purpose of conservation. He collected some culture specimens like here in this box, but many species, like some Saturninidae, he is breeding in laboratory, and he keeping some caterpillars, as American Luna moth, for instance. I showed in some of my videos, and studying their biology for the purpose, not for sale, but for purpose of conservation and for possible purpose of release in natural environment. For instance, some species which are under the protection and which are close to the endangered species, which are rare species, it can be bred in the laboratory and artificially released back to the nature. So that's why the population of these species can be increased artificially by artificially bred specimens. Of course, in wintertime, it's impossible to breed some species without huge greenhouse with natural plants, but in spring, summer, and autumn time, some species are possible to breed at home, in laboratory, in natural, such artificial conditions. Or in natural conditions, if you have some plants in a field garden or in courtyard, you have some plants, host plants, and so you can put some caterpillars on plants and breed them just in a cage, in covered cage, so no birds will not disturb your culture of insects, no birds will try to kill your caterpillars on plant, so we can be bred in nearly natural condition. Only some maybe wasps and hornets can try to penetrate the mesh over leaves of plants and try to make damage, but you must be careful with the mesh over your plants. But I can show you this on some photos. So that's why, from a certain point of view, in some cases, collecting insects and breeding insects in artificial conditions can be scientifically proved, because if some species like here, like this papilio, are rare in natural environment, these papilio caterpillars are easily bred in captivity. Both species are quite rare, relatively rare, quite common, widely distributed, but not very common. Where you can find 1, 2 butterflies, huge area around your house and around your field, occasionally in the courtyard, even with flowers, because some host plants are quite rare, because in artificial environment like around houses, even an urban environment, we don't have so many natural plants, only in some natural areas which are vulnerable because of some pesticide and insecticide as well. So artificial breeding can be quite useful for nature conservation. And as I said, my colleagues are breeding some butterflies and keeping some butterflies in artificial conditions and receiving some pupa of moths, nocturnal moths. This is a dead moth, arthropods. Pupa unfortunately dead, do not move anymore in the very light. Some Sphingidae, pupa. This is a big one. Even here some skin with horn. And of course some pupa after that. This is a pupa of silk moth. This is a very enthusiastic way to study daily butterflies and nocturnal moths. Arthropods, as I said, quite a big one, nearly the size of my finger, more than about 5 centimeters, quite a big one. And even you can also keep some silk moths, which produce this silk and this pupa. In some cases, you can receive some living culture from another lepidopterist in commercial sites. You can exchange some living cultures, so you can receive some eggs, like these tiny eggs of Sphingidae, but some caterpillars hatched, some not hatched. Moths are laying eggs here after mating, so this is a very delicate way. You need to receive male and you need to receive female, both one, be female and male, put both in a cage, and after mating of them, female, this be one female, will lay eggs in captivity. So if you know a plant, you can keep in a cage some twigs, some branches with leaves of host plant. The caterpillars are easily bred in captivity, dozens, even hundreds. Actually, you don't need to keep them just for food, for feeding some animals. No. If you are breeding them for nature conservation purpose, as some rare species, you can easily release them in natural environment, like in a forest, in a park, in your courtyard, in your orchard, especially if you planted some natural plants, because butterflies and daily butterflies and nocturnal moths can be spread around this area and lay eggs in natural conditions. Again, you can release males and females, they will mate and can lay eggs in natural environment. So in this case, you can increase the size of population of one species or another species, like for these families which are easily bred for family. Many Sphingidae are not very common, quite easy to breed them, and possible to release them in natural environment. And they do not make too much damage on plants, host plants, because caterpillar is big, but can easily be eaten by different vertebrates and different birds as well, despite their camouflage, despite their mimicry in natural conditions. So that's why breeding in artificial conditions of males and females of different Sphingidae, hawk moths, different silk moths of Saturniidae family, quite useful for the study, monitoring, and for enlargement of natural population of rare species. you can try to do it even for dead moth like that, despite it's not natural for Ukraine. It's flying to Ukraine from some southern areas. But Oleg is doing some kind of experiments with several species of silk moths, and then swallowtails, Papilionidae, and hawk moths, Sphingidae family. So we wish good luck him in his observations and his breeding activities, because this is not for sale. This is for purpose of conservation, nature and conservation of natural environment, and conservation of species of different nocturnal moths and daily butterflies. And after that, if you are breeding, you can maintain some hatched butterflies, hatched moths, even some beetles in collection. Nevertheless, you can collect not only big insects for collection, you can collect even tiny insects if you are providing different special traps, as I explained in my previous video about traps for small, tiny parasitoids, which are very tiny. Here we have butterflies, beetles, and other invertebrates, but these are different parasitoids and different flies indicated here in this book about entomophagous insects. Here they're quite big on in this book, size of maybe 10 centimeters, but originally their size just only 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters. This is the biggest one, and the smallest one, Trichogramma, is just half of millimeter. They're flying around in natural environment, in orchard and garden and field, in agricultural field, like plankton, because many of these species are smaller than Drosophila fly, smaller than fruit fly. So, but they're very fast. They're jumping, they're flying very fast, they're just flying to the light, they're searching for their host, So in many cases, they considered to be beneficial for humans because they're regulating for population of different agricultural pests and forestry pests. That's why I'm doing study of egg parasitoids. Here are some predaceous flies of a family Tachinidae. The bigger one, about 5-6 millimeters, even maybe more sometimes than 6 millimeters. But parasitoids are quite small, but some big can be big for family. Here's some predaceous beetles, entomophagous beetles, like Coccinellidae. But some Ichneumonidae flies and Braconidae parasitoids also can be bigger, up to 1 centimeter in family. Ichneumonidae also quite a bigger, also about up to 20 millimeters, 2 centimeters, up to 3 centimeters, even some species bigger than 3 centimeters. So because of very long tail, or just its scientific name, ovipositor body, like 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, and long ovipositor, which can be longer than the whole size of body. So they are collected in scientific collections for scientific study using different methods, including the same butterfly net, but also by using Malaise trap. Malaise trap, this is kind of a tent, which is done from the mesh with special collector collecting jar. And many species can be collected in different, like this, caps, like for some beetles, quite useful if you put it on around. And many small parasitoids are used to be collected on these yellow pen traps. I showed it already before. These tiny plates, these are deeper. These are not so deep, but with yellow color, which are more attractive rather than just white. Much more attractive. We can say this is a kind of artificial flowers. These traps must be filled with water, with some drops of shampoo in each plate. You can up to 300 grams of water in each plate, like here in this small one, or like here. And they should be placed just on the ground, between plants, between trees, just on stones, near stones. Sometimes I put stone on the plate to make it more stable against the wind, like this one. Put here the stone, so it allows to stabilize the plate, because windy, sometimes wind can turn it over. These deep plates are more convenient because they are more stabilized, and these plates are useful especially in a hot weather, in sunshine. So water with can be added here, water with salt, which is not evaporating so quickly, and water especially with shampoo. Shampoo is just a detergent, or with detergent. So insects were flying around, they're searching for food, searching for hosts, for flowers. They're falling down in the water inside these plates, which are named muriate plates, or just simply yellow pen traps. Yellow pen traps. This is a very simple name of this, yellow pen traps. And when you collect it, how you can collect? You can put them on the ground and just wait. If you're living in just not in temporary, like now it's cold in Ukraine. If you're living somewhere in Florida, you can collect insects whole year round when it's still sunshine, even 15 degrees Celsius or just less than 100 Fahrenheit. Still will be a good temperature. So insects are flying, falling down inside like this tube. So, and after that, you can fill this aquarium net with content of a different insects and small invertebrates which are falling down inside this plate with water, collecting them. So many here will be inside the nest. And then you can bring it to home and clean with clean water, because here will be shampoo and detergent on the surface of insects. So you need to clean them and then just remove them inside the bag, like a small jar, 250 milliliters in a jar, and then put the content, clean it, and put it inside the jar with alcohol, especially with 70% or 96% alcohol. In these conditions, insects and invertebrates will be safe for a long time, especially if you can put them in a refrigerator in a cold temperature, so you can stop evaporation of alcohol from your samples. This is very important. If you have time and purpose of identification of biodiversity of insects in your collection, you can separate insects in separate jars, small vials like that. In these vials, you can put separate samples of collected in different days, different time, or maybe different samples from different traps. And here usually I separate them because here different groups, which are easier to control than quality of alcohol, and add a little bit alcohol to stop evaporation, because here you see some alcohol evaporated. So this sample needs some care. I need to add more alcohol to fill it like that. Here more alcohol. It depends from the cork from here. And you see here a lot of insects inside. Yeah, black color means full of insects, small insects, which I study, small tiny parasitoids about 1 millimeters and less. You collected many samples like that in small tubes, in small vials, which are replaced from this plate, from yellow pen traps plates. Yellow pen plates. Here we're all in alcohol in 90 or 70% alcohol, ethanol, or 96% ethanol. Close it and put it to a refrigerator for longer storage. We are safe, we are ready for scientific study under the microscope for sorting, for selection appropriate insect of appropriate order or appropriate family, which needs special identification under the microscope, which needs identification after microscopic study and after preparation and making microscopic slides. So this is important to keep them in separate them. I didn't study board flies. Yes, board flies can attack you, especially in tropical areas. Sometimes it's quite difficult. Hello, some people who join us. Some people are joining us from America, I know. Curious Koi, best greetings. Some people are joining us probably from India or maybe from Turkish Republic. Who knows? Right, which country did you come from? In your comments. Or you probably, I don't know which is your country. Write in your comments. So that's why you can try to collect from Turkish Republic, right? And what's the city? Quite interesting. What city in Turkish Republic? Well, what should I show you more? Yes, this is collecting jars. And I can show you a little bit some collections. From Adana, good. Right, on this southern area. Okay, so these are samples of some educational collections. I show you just for fun. I showed you scientific collection like this one. I need to say that scientists and private collectors should cooperate for this study, because when some private collectors are collecting big beetles in some samples, they throw away different materials from the samples. Please do not throw away, do not destroy valuable material from your samples. Put them in different small samples like that. Kind of contact appropriate person who is studying appropriate group, like I'm studying small microhymenoptera, tiny microhymenoptera, which I used for microscopical study. My country is Ukraine. I'm taking this video from Ukraine. I visited Adana 7 years ago. I know many people in Adana. Yes, so you know what it means Ukraine now at this time, in this difficult time. So if you're collecting some big insects using traps, you can collect some small insects as well. Small insects, these can be even some small bees and wasps, like here, different species of bees. And here, I put here some honeybees for educational purpose. Here some drones to study their morphological features from different geographical areas, because it's quite important to check differentiation in different geographical races in Ukraine or for honeybees in Ukraine. And here some samples of wild bees, not domesticated bees, some bumblebees. And these are collections for educational and partially for scientific purpose, because I can give it for appropriate scientists to check the distribution of these species and distribution of appropriate time. This is another part of collection with some beetles and some tiny bees. So these are type. I close it with a scotch to prevent deterioration because of some pests can come inside. Yes, curious, I know who you are. Yes, these are beetles. They're pinned, so they're all of them pinned with appropriate labels about their distribution. Which one is less? And this one with some hawkmoth, B1 hawkmoth with hornet, with some bumblebees, some June beetles, and some hornets as well as some bumblebees as well. I have collected actually before the war. You know what means war now in Ukraine. Now quite difficult to collect insects because many areas are prohibited to visit. Forest, marine parks, natural environment around cities are prohibited to visit. The forest, especially because of some explosions, can be found in some areas even around Kiev. Some areas in Carpathian region, far away from Kiev, are open for visit to natural environment, but it's quite far away from Kiev. But some areas in eastern Ukraine and southern Ukraine is under the great danger because the biodiversity of these insects are declining and destroying. And these bloody neighbors who are attacking us, destroying our natural environment, and we are destroying also Ukrainian land, and we are destroying Ukrainian people. So this is a not difficult subject for discussion. This is disgusting subject for discussion. Sorry about that. But this is the time. This is the time when we are living. This is quite difficult to describe it. Nevertheless, don't be crazy about the situation. That's why I'm pleased to contact with people all around the world to speak in English, to explain some questions about collections, about collectors. So collections are different, amateurs collections, scientific collections, you understand. And so you can try to join efforts of amateurs and collectors because they should have some kind of purpose to understand the nature, to understand the nature, to investigate natural environment around us. Do not destroy natural environment like some stupid people are doing, but to save natural environment, to make some measures for nature conservation rather than for nature destruction, for conservation of a knowledge of people, to conservation of our nature for future generation rather than destroy this generation and destroy the generation of insects, animals, and people. So it's really very crazy. Thank you for your attention. Let's meet next time. Let's discuss about collections. Let's discuss about collectors. This is a huge area for discussion. And it's, you understood, some collectors are commercial collectors. And I can show you some final. Enter the stage. I wanted to show you some. I described a little bit difficult. No. Come on. Cannot switch on. I want to show you some pictures. My touchpad is working not very well. Because my mouse is out. Come on. Nevertheless, yes, was interruption of video. Sorry about that. I need to say thank you very much for visit and to join in this my video about insects and insects collections and insect collectors. This is a difficult question. This is a difficult point for discussion because collectors are different, people are different. Purpose of a scientific study and purpose of amateurs collecting is different. Hopefully we have found some joint points between collectors and scientists who are studying insects for scientific purpose, and amateurs who are collecting insects for enjoyment. So if we are collecting insects for enjoyment, we can collect insects also partially for scientific purpose. If you are collectors and you are interested, and if you are able to share your knowledge about some insects with scientific staff in university, in nature conservation organization, in different other nature institutions, you are welcome to cooperate with them. You have some interesting or just simple questions about collections, about insects, about pests, about insects in your house, insects in your courtyard, in any time, in winter time, in autumn time like now, and springtime and summertime. Welcome to ask your questions on my channel in description of this video, or you can find my email for direct private connections, because if you are not on Gmail, you are not allowed to write comments. So if you are not familiar about YouTube, you cannot type comments. But if you have account on Gmail, write your questions or send you your private message on my private email for secret discussion about insects which are irritating you, which are damaging something in your house or in your courtyard, in your field, in your garden, in your orchard. And as professional entomologist, I will be very pleased to help you in this question. If I know something about it, in many cases I know. If I don't know, maybe you can find some very strange pests and something surprising. I can check literature, I can identify it and give you just professional answer about it and professional advice. How to rid of it, or how don't worry about it if it is not a pest at all. So, and let's discuss insects, invertebrates, nature conservation in Ukraine and other countries in our next videos. Join me on email, join me on YouTube, subscribe, press like, write your comments under this video after this description. And don't forget, you can visit my Patreon page for donations, or you can check some other links for donations if you're from Ukraine and other countries. So you can visit some monobank links, which are easy for digitizing donations very quickly to send a couple of dollars as a feedback for my talk today and other lectures on my channel. I have many videos about entomology on my channel, so welcome to check my channel where I deposited lectures in Russian, in Ukrainian, in English. You can find what you want if you are interested in entomology and insects. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for your attention. Good luck. See you soon. Bye-bye. Good luck. Looking forward to see you next time. As visitor, follower, or subscriber if you are not subscribed. Subscribe if you didn't do it. Welcome.